Well, I know you guys are absolutely going to love this one. So welcome back to another episode of the Social Media Millionaire Podcast. This episode, we are going to be diving into the 4 different buyer types and how to sell them. Now, I know that there's been quite a bit of information that different marketing and sales gurus have been putting out on the internet about this recently, but we have a much deeper understanding and a different approach to leveraging the buyer types than most. So I'm really excited to dive in with you guys and kind of spill the tea on what we've been holding back when it comes to our marketing process. So first and foremost, I feel like I need to explain something because one of the number one questions that I get is how do I figure out which types of buyers are in my audience so that I can market to them? Now, you are definitely going to have a couple different buyer types that are more prominent in your audience. But this is where we lead into my little explanation. So if any of you are familiar with the 5 love languages, you know that there are acts of service and physical touch and quality time and all of that good stuff, right? And although each of us typically has a prominent one that we like to give or receive love, if we just had one in a relationship, if we only had gift giving, or if we only had quality time and nothing else, it wouldn't be a very well-rounded, fulfilling relationship. So when this comes to the buyer types, it's kind of the same thing. Each of us typically have a prominent buyer type that leads the way that we make purchase decisions and the things that we really focus on when we're deciding if we're going to buy something. That being said, if you only speak to just one buyer type in your content, it's not going to be a very well-rounded, fulfilling relationship for your audience. So when we apply this to marketing, what I want you to keep in mind is that yes, there are going to be prominent buyer types in your audience. And yes, it is great information to have. However, you don't want to fall into the trap of just speaking to one, or what a lot of people do, just speaking to the one that they are, because that's what feels the most comfortable to them. You still want to create content that speaks to all 4 buyer types, because that's going to, one, give you the best odds of creating the highest amount of sales, and 2, you're going to be able to create that well-rounded, fulfilling relationship. Even if somebody is a driver buyer, they may have very expressive traits, but if you're only speaking to those driver buyer tendencies, they might still not buy. And so this gives you a framework to essentially tell you all of the different things that you need to make sure that you hit home to in your content, and it's like a checklist. And so you're not trying to necessarily sell to one buyer type. You want to make sure that you're hitting home to all of these elements in different ways to ensure that you're creating a well-rounded relationship between you and your consumer. Now, another top asked question that I get is, what are some of your favorite marketing and sales books? And to that I say, I don't really read a lot of marketing and sales books. I actually read a lot more psychology books, because the more insight that I can gain into the mind of the consumer, then the better my marketing and sales is going to be. Once you understand the basic principles of marketing and sales, they don't change. The more you understand the psychology of what is going to activate people to buy, the more targeted your marketing and sales can be, the more effective it will be. So I want to introduce to you guys one of my favorite books that's actually not about the buyer types or sales or marketing at all. It's called Surrounded by Idiots. And what it is it basically breaks down the 4 different personality types, and each of these correspond directly with one of the different buyer types. And so this book gives you so much insight into the minds of each of these 4 different personalities, what they care about, what makes them tick, what they're taking into consideration in their day-to-day lives, and it really gives you a well-rounded understanding of what it is that really makes these people tick. And so with that, what we've done is we've taken this understanding of the buyer types and how to sell to them, and this newfound understanding of these different personality types, and it's really just allowed us to go that much deeper in terms of how we market and sell our products and services. So let's go ahead and dive in. We're going to unpack each of these 4 different buyer types, going to pair them with the different personality types from the book, and I'm going to give you some insight into how to sell these different types of buyers. Now, the very first one that I want to talk about is your analytical buyers. And if you read the book, this is going to be your blue personality type. So these buyers are very detail focused. They value accuracy accuracy, stats. They love a good spreadsheet, right? My husband's an analytical buyer, so I can very much relate and understand this buyer type. So this is going to be the customer that really wants to see a side-by-side comparison of what's in the different levels of packages, or if they're going to buy a MacBook Pro versus a MacBook Air, they really need to see that side-by-side comparison that lets them compare the RAM and the processing and all of that so that they really have a good understanding of what it is that they're getting themselves into. So especially for my service providers that are listening to this, if you are trying to sell somebody who's super analytical, your more emotion-led storytelling that people often do on social media is not going to be impactful, or I should say as impactful, to this type of buyer. What they really want to see are things like ROI, success rates, stats. They want to see in-depth details as to what is included in your offer or with your product. They want to understand not only the transformation, but how you achieve the transformation for them. They want to know specifics. They want to know timelines. They want to know how many calls. They want to know how many hours of Slack access, right? They really want to know the specific details and be able to do a side-by-side comparison. These are the people that when you're on a sales conversation with them, they're more likely to be the ones that are, hey, I'm gonna have to get back to you because I'm chatting with these other people so I can compare and contrast the services. Also, analytical buyers tend to take price into consideration a lot more than the other buyers. So it's important that you really come and lead with the data and the stats and the proof as to how you provide the transformation so that you can showcase and really back up what your pricing is to this type of buyer. So with this corresponding to that blue personality type, something that we learn is that they really value thoroughness and of course data, as we've talked about. And so when you are really able to give them a detailed description as to what your process looks like, you're able to clearly lay out for them what the next steps with you would look like. You're able to unpack for them the exact elements of your framework or of your process that are going to provide the results. And when you can give them a very thorough explanation and understanding of what that looks like, this buyer type is going to be a lot more inclined to purchase from you. You'll notice with this personality type, when you're having a conversation with them, either in the DMs or maybe over Zoom, they tend to be a little bit more reserved and laid back and a lot more professional in their communication style. So they're usually not super expressive or super emotional, right? They tend to be a lot more reserved. And so you might feel like you're kind of digging to get this personality type to really open up to you. They're a lot more comfortable with their numbers, their stats, and their data than they are with emotions typically. Now, that's again a generality because going back to what we've talked about with the love languages, you might have somebody who is primarily an analytical buyer who's also very amiable. And we're going to talk about what that could look like in a minute. So when it comes to those sales conversations with your analytical buyers, the worst thing that you could possibly do is pressure them to make a decision right then and there. They really need to know that you respect and understand that they need to process the information. And if you really want to make that sale, you need to give them the most thorough understanding of your offer and how it produces the results that you're selling. That is what is ultimately going to cause them to want to work with you over everyone else, is because if you have the data and the stats to back up what you're saying, and they have the best understanding of how you produce results, and you can give them the best explanation out of everyone else that they have a conversation with, they are going to choose to work with you. Now, when it comes to creating content that's really going to be activating to your analytical buyers, there's a few things that you want to make sure that you hit home to. Now, a great way to house some of this information is in your highlights on your Instagram. If you can really clearly unpack your different offers, who they're for, what's included, and what the transformation looks like, having that information readily available for your analytical buyers is going to make the difference between them buying from you or buying from one of your competitors. If they feel like they are more easily able to obtain the necessary information that they need to really analyze and decide what they want to do and how they want to move forward, you are going to stand out above everyone else. When you're creating content, it's also really important that you hit home to the results that you create and you actually unpack how you achieve those results for people. Now, this isn't to say that you're going to do educational content where you sit down and do a tutorial of how to, but what you want to do is unpack your framework and really uncover what the process is that you bring your clients through to achieve the results they are looking for. So when we talk about creating solution lens content, they are one of the key buyer types that you are speaking to through that type of content, so that you're really able to hit home to the results that you've been able to create either for yourself or for your clients, and then you clearly unpack how they can achieve that result and what the gap is in their understanding that's keeping them stuck where they currently are. Now, the second buyer type is your amiable buyers, and they are what would be considered the yellow personality. They are really more of one of the emotional buyer types, similar to an expressive, and they really, really value relationships and connection above all else. So your yellow personality tends to be a little bit of a people pleaser. At times, they're typically very bright and friendly and really value trust. This is the consumer that's going to choose a real estate agent that their friend recommended simply because of that personal connection there, rather than choosing the top agent in their area that sells the most homes and gets the best deals. That's not necessarily what their concern is. What they're most concerned about is having a good experience and really having a good connection with the person that they're buying from or the company that they're buying from. So these are the audience members that are really going to care about your personal brand or your personal story, especially if you are a product-based business. You can really tap into that amiable market by hitting home to your brand story, why you do what you do, and how your company was created. So with amiable buyers, they tend to take a while to make a purchase because they can be a little bit wishy-washy. They're like, I'm not quite sure what I want to do, and they really need you to kind of help them get to the checkout. But to be able to do that without being super pushy and like you're a used car salesman, you really need to build a sense of trust and connection with them. They want to feel like they know you on a deeper level rather than just the business and trying to get the deal done. So if you are having a sales conversation with this buyer, you might also realize that they're asking an awful lot of questions that are related to how their investment might affect those around them. So their family, team, friends, they really care deeply about how their decisions affect those around them. They care a lot about the emotions and the feelings of those around them. And again, with that kind of people pleaser energy, they don't really want to upset people. So they have a hard time saying no. And sometimes you can have a harder time getting to the root of what they're feeling, what their objections are. And so again, you really have to build that personal connection with them so that they see you as a person that they can trust, that can lead them through making this decision. Now, when it comes to creating content for this type of buyer, creating and talking about your personal story, like I said, really showing your emotional connection to your brand or business, why you do what you do, your story that led you to this point, and really what sets you apart from other people. Why are you passionate about what you do? Showcase the community that you've built in your space and let them know that they are not alone. And if you can really help them to feel like you're speaking directly to them in your marketing, you're going to build so much trust. So this is where that problem aware content comes in and can be really, really activating to your amiable buyers if you do it correctly. Because if you're able to hit home specifically to their symptoms and what they're experiencing in their current reality in a way that other people haven't been able to, because you understand sales psychology and can create better content, then they're instantly going to have a higher amount of trust with you. And when you pair that with the personal branding elements, it's a lethal combination for selling these amiable buyers. Now, the third buyer type is called your driver buyers. People also refer to these as your assertive buyers, and this is your red personality type. So they're very bold, decisive, goal-oriented, and tend to be more focused on the outcome than the product itself. I myself am predominantly a driver buyer, so this is something that I can really speak to. This red personality type tends to have a little bit of an ego, and they are extremely competitive. This personality type really, really values efficiency and being able to get their desired result as fast as possible. And they are willing to invest money and time to get the outcome that they are looking for. Your driver buyers tend to, when you're having having a sales conversation with them, you'll find that they aren't asking you a ton of questions like the other buyer types. Instead, they're making more statements. They're telling you what they need and simply seeing if you can deliver for them. If you can give them a shortcut to what it is that they're wanting and really highlight the outcome that they're going to have, the transformation, they are very quick to be sold. Now, your driver buyers or your red personality type, if they are going to buy from you, they really need to see you as someone in a position of authority, and you really have to back up what you share with some sort of credibility. So if you can hit home to the achievements that you've had, certifications that you've got, success stories, and also the halo effect in sales psychology is very activating to your driver buyers because they are so ego driven. They are really taking into consideration how their affiliation with a person or brand might make them appear to other people. So if you're leveraging that halo effect and really boosting your own credibility and aura, then they are going to be a lot more attracted to you because they want to align themselves with other people who are high achieving, competitive, and successful. So when you're in a purchase conversation with a driver buyer, it's really important that they understand what the outcome is, and you can really play to that ego and that competitive nature by hitting home to how this is going to give them an edge over their competitors and really clearly showcasing for them what the transformation and the outcome is and how you're going to get them to their desired outcome in the most efficient way possible. Now, when it comes to creating content for this buyer type, both solution lens and agitational content are very activating for this type of buyer. If you can hit home to not only the transformation, the outcomes, the results that you've achieved for your clients, but if you can showcase for them the gaps in their own understanding and kind of poke at that ego a little bit and let them know that they do in fact have a problem that they need you to solve, that type of content is very activating for them. Again, bringing it back to the Instagram highlights, something that you can do to really bolster your credibility is to have a couple different highlights that not only have screenshots of client results or customer reviews, but also unpack and give context as to how you produced those results. If they can see that you, again, were able to shortcut that transformation for people, that's going to be very activating for them. And because they want to see you as an authority figure, it's really important that you have all of your social profiles, your website, everything that you have well optimized to really allow you to stand in your power and claim your space as a leader, because that's what these types of buyers need to see to decide to work with you. So having some sort of authority building statement in your bio, you'll see on mine, it talks about the fact that we have $100 million worth of impact with the clients we've worked with, and we've worked with over 6,000 clients since we've founded our company. So that is a big authority builder to those driver buyers. Being able to talk about the amount of clients that you've worked with, income results, client results, anything that you can use to really, again, optimize and position yourself on a pedestal as a leader is going to be very activating to them. This also comes down to things on your website, like your about page. How are you really infusing those humble brags and helping people to see your credibility and see how great you are? This is the time for you to really shine as a founder and unpack what makes you different. Now, your fourth personality type is your green personality, and these are your expressive buyers. They really value creativity, social status, and just overall a feeling of excitement. When you think of expressive buyers, these are the people that are going to be beating down your door when you do a pre-launch to be the first people inside. They really value exclusivity. They value the client experience. They're all about that luxury feel. These are the type of people that are highly attracted to limited edition items and brands like Hermes who really make you play that game to get that Birkin, right? They value that exclusivity and that feeling of community that comes along with being one of the select few that are insiders in whatever it is that they're interested in. Now, these buyers are another one of your more emotional buyers. So really leveraging your personal story, showcasing a sense of community, exclusivity, and allowing them to see what the client experience looks like is going to be very activating for your expressive buyers. They want to see that this is going to be a high touch, white glove, luxury luxury experience for them, that's really what they're into. Trendy branding and emotional visuals and really speaking to their sense of not wanting to be left out. You can really leverage the bandwagon effect in a very effective way to sell these expressive buyers. So you'll see us talk about posting transparency content where we're breaking the wall between what's happening out on social media and what's happening behind the scenes of our business. So when we're posting screenshots of a plethora of applications that came in a single day, or a ton of DM interest for a specific offer, or we're launching some sort of early bird offer and we are really showcasing the hype for that feeling of not wanting to be left out, of wanting to be one of the select exclusive few that are in the know, is very activating for your expressive buyers. Now, when it comes to creating agitational content that really pulls at their emotions and highlights mistakes that they're making and how you help them fix those mistakes, tend to be very activating for your expressive buyers. They want to be on the inside. And so if you can unpack for them mistakes that they're making that a lot of people don't know about, you can give them a secret tip to success. If you can highlight gaps in your industry and things that you do differently than everyone else, that air of mystery is really going to attract those expressive buyers. So you can see how really having a well-rounded understanding of each of these different personality types can really aid in your ability to create effective, impactful, activating content, and also know what to say and what to focus on when you're having sales conversations with different people. So something that we've really strived to do is to, one, ensure that there are resources or information readily available on our socials, on our website, that is really going to hit home to these different concerns that the different buyer types have. So I've mentioned it a couple times, the way that we've broken down our Instagram highlights so that people have a really great understanding of what it is that we do, what the exclusivity and the experience of our offer looks like. They have a good understanding of the data, the stats, they have an overview of client results and how we get there, and we're able to showcase the community that we built to hit home to the things that are important to all of these different types of buyers. And we've done the same thing with the copy and the different pages that we've strategically placed on our website. Just one example of this is our client testimonial page. We have an entire page dedicated to each of our different offers where people can flip through and see the results that have come out of every single program. Again, very impactful for our driver and analytical buyers to be able to go in, get that context, and really have a good understanding of what the results look like with working with us. With our about page, we've really heavily curated it so that we're able to build that connection with our amiable buyers. We want them to trust, we want them to feel a connection with us. So we really have poured our heart out and showcased what the journey is that's brought us here. We've made sure that our purpose and our mission is very clear. And through our visuals and branding across the entire site, we've really created a sense of luxury and exclusivity that really leans into that ruler archetype that's very attractive to your expressive buyers. And then we do the same thing with our content. We make sure that we're creating content through the different content lenses that's hitting home to the things that each personality type really truly cares about and is taking more into consideration when they decide to make a purchase. Because if you don't speak to the things that are important to them, they're not going to buy from you. No matter what your results look like, no matter how great your program is, it doesn't matter if you have the best program in the world. If you don't sell to the different personalities based on the things that they truly care about and the things that they are subliminally taking into consideration, you are going to be missing out on a ton of sales. Now, as a fun little bonus tip to come full circle into what we talked about at the beginning of the episode, if you ever get stuck with how to make sure that you're speaking to the different buyer types, I want to give you a little cheat sheet that ties directly back into the love languages. So starting with words of affirmation, we know that praising the expressive buyer's choices and really being inviting in terms of how we're speaking to them is going to be very activating. With quality time, giving your undivided attention to the amiable buyer, going out of your way to send a voice note rather than a text in the DM, or really unpacking your personal story and putting a personal touch into the content that you're creating is going to go a long way. With receiving gifts, offering exclusive deals and bonuses that are going to hit home to that that competitive nature and really help your driver buyers have an edge against their competitors is very impactful. Acts of service, providing exceptional support and information for your analytical buyer is really going to get them to want to work with you. If you can clearly unpack what you do, how you do it, what the results are, and give them that time and understanding to make their decisions and analyze and go through their process is very important. And finally, physical touch. This really hits home to all of the different buyer types, because who doesn't love something that is custom and more tangible for them? So things like sending a gift when a new client signs on, or even sending something an email that feels really customized, that's some sort of a value add. The more tangible you can get, the better. All right, you guys, that's it for this episode. I hope you loved it and found it super helpful for you guys. As always, my DMs are always open. If there's anything you want to chat through in regards to this episode or any other, never hesitate to reach out. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and I will see you in the next episode.